So
Oh, mail order.
mail order, yeah. So
Oh, mail order.
mail order, yeah.
Oh,
There you
Hello.
go. Yeah.
oh.
There you
Hello.
go. Yeah.
Any better now?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
terrific.
Okay.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Boak, Chairman of the Kennebunkport Planning Board. This is a virtual planning board meeting. We're using Zoom conferencing format. The agenda is on the town's website. Information needed for the public to participate in the conferencing. If you wish to participate through Zoom, use this Zoom webinar ID is 961-2202-6585. You can also dial in from the East Coast at 929-205-6099, and then you have to enter that same number. If you're conferencing in with Zoom and watching on TV, you have to turn down your volume or we'll get feedback. You can always watch us on channel 13R1 or stream us on the Kennebunkport Television YouTube channel. During the meeting, only planning board participants and the current participant will talk on the board. They'll be audio connected, otherwise will be blacked out and muted. If a public hearing is on the agenda, which it is, the first item will be a public hearing. At that point, you will, if you wish to be heard, you will raise your hand in Zoom, and we will recognize those people in turn as they talk. If you're on a phone, you raise your hand using *6, and you toggle mute with *9. Okay, so first order of business is always to take the roll, and it appears to me that, well, let's go through them. Tom Boak is here. Nina?
Here.
Scott?
Here.
Ed?
Here.
Larry?
Here.
Okay, I don't see George and John, but they might come in later, so. All right, minutes. We had the minutes of the last meeting. They were prodigious amount of minutes. I was really quite impressed. The only thing I noticed was the word peak was P-E-E-K rather than P-E-A-K. So I sent her an email on that. I'm sure she'll fix it. So I have a motion on the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? I'm in favor. So Nina,
In favor.
Scott,
Aye.
Ed,
In favor.
Larry.
In favor.
Okay, so those are approved. So moves to the first item, which is the 210201 Kennebunkport Captain's Collection LLC Mainstay Inn, Sebago Techniques authorized agent, and we want to bring in Steve Doe and the same people as last week, if we could. Who are the others?
Mr.
Ask-
Blood.
Blood, yes.
Why don't you ask them to raise their hand, Tom? If they're participating in the public meeting?
There's the two, Rob Blood and Steve Doe. Okay, Steve, is that everybody at this point?
Yep.
Okay.
You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I guess if I can share my screen, I can update you from the last meeting. I'll pull up our drawings. All right. Can you see this yet?
Yeah, it just popped up, yep.
Okay, I'll zoom in a little bit. So after the last meeting, there was a lot of concerns about the placement of the parking lot. One from its proximity to neighbors, one's for views in, disturbance to tree roots and the likes. So after talking with Rob, he took that very seriously, and we've revised the site plan. As you see here, what we've done is we've moved the parking lot from over here to the back of the building, which is also a lawn area. We kept the driveway in its current location, and then we curve it in. And then this area over here is going to remain undisturbed and a lawn area other than some plantings and fire pit. Excuse me if I got a cough. I got an allergy that I get every spring, so I'll be coughing a little bit here. So the parking count is the same. It's 18 spaces. We have kept pretty much everything else in this area the same. We've made a change. There was a concern about the neighbor that's located over here with some patios that we had in the back of this and landscaping. So we've taken those two patios and we've moved them to the front of the units. We've kept the buffering along the side here, but pulled these in so he will not see those units. The other change we made is there is a unit inside the inn that's right here. We've added them a small patio similar to what we have at the other cottages. We got rid of the walkway that came through here that continued out in this direction. We've essentially just connected the walk that came here to the parking lot. We've added evergreen screening here around the parking lot. We've also added some internal screening, one more for the folks that are going to be staying here so they don't see the parked cars. We've also increased the buffer planting along this side. It's a combination of rhododendrons and arborvitae. So again, increasing the screening there. We had an arborvitae hedge that continued along the front. We've continued that all the way to the end here so that any activity that's happening here is also screened from the abutter across the street. We've also added additional plantings in this zone, some more evergreens and the likes to beautify the area and buffer the area. As you recall, we had 3 fire pits in this location. We've eliminated those, and we now just have one gas fireplace located here in the lawn area. Rob will have that shut off at 9 p.m. because there was concerns about continued activity into the night. Just looking through my notes, I think that captures everything on the changes. We did provide a light fixture cut sheet, which wasn't asked before, but we do have quite a few lights around the parking lot. It's a small 8-foot pole with a 100-foot watt fixture on it. So it's not really giving off much light at all. It's really just to provide more safety and ambiance in the parking lot so they can get safely from the parking lot to their units. That's essentially the changes. Again, Rob took this very seriously and we made some, we think, very significant changes to the project, and be happy to hear what the board has. I don't know if Rob wants to add anything to what I've discussed.
No, I think, Steve, I appreciate it. You represented it well.
Okay.
Okay, if I just look, it seems there's a whole lot less spill in that parking lot now seems to be down at the 22-foot level rather than the 25-foot level, which
Yes,
seems like a big improvement.
It's pretty much at existing grade. You know, we're coming up slightly above the lawn area just for structure, but it's pretty low. That back area is low.
Yeah. Okay, so I still don't much care for the fire pits, but anyway, let me just go around the board, I guess, for starters. Scott, why don't you?
Thank you. So Steve, tell me, how many 8-foot poles with the lights on them?
Well, they're shown on the plan here. So we got one here, two, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 around the parking lot. We have a couple coming in. We have a couple kind of wayfinding along the walkway. So they're all shown on the drawings.
Okay, but they weren't there before? Or
They were there before.
Okay.
We didn't provide a cut sheet for it, but
that's
they've always
fine.
been.
So what's the net new amount?
As far as parking,
No, as far as those lights.
there's probably, about the same, if not less.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's great.
Okay, Nina? Anything to say?
Yeah, I think it's important that all the fire pits get cut off at 9 o'clock, just for the residents, you know, safe concerns. And it would stop a lot of outside conversation and outside noise. And I would appreciate that. This plan looks much better to me. It doesn't look like you're using anything but the driveway that's already there, so it's unlikely that lights will shine into the neighbors' houses. I'm wondering if those 8-foot lights could be a little lower. Are they going to be on all night for safety reasons?
They will be, Nina. Steve, it's possible. Do you think it's possible we could change that to low voltage lighting, path lighting around the property?
I think around the property we could, but I think in the lot itself, low voltage isn't going to light that parking lot.
So as a point of reference, I think the arborvitae that we're installing are between 6 and 8 feet tall, and they surround the entire parking lot. So I don't believe there will be much light bleed out of there. I actually would prefer for us to change the wayfinding lighting around the property to low voltage, which will be low to the ground, and really cover the path, but not cover, sort of be exposed, 8 feet up. But I agree with Steve that we should probably keep the two that are coming into the property and the 5 in the parking lot, just for safety's sake.
Okay. I'm not thinking so much in terms of, coverage and things. I'm thinking so much in terms of you've got a lot of plantings there, and you restrict insects if you have too much lighting at night. That's the only reason I was thinking of going a little lower.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we may be able to get away with 6-foot poles. Again, it's just more to just provide some ambient light so they're not, it's not total darkness. I
Right.
mean, these lights aren't going to give off much at a 6-foot or 8-foot pole.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. Okay.
it's
I
like
think-
it's more of a residential type fixture you'd have at your walkway or something like that. You know.
Okay. And all the large trees are remaining the same.
Yes, we had taken some out over here. I think we are still removing like 1 or 2 over here, but the really big ones, the ones that were of concern, this elm, there's some big Norway spruces along the line. There's a lot of large ones here that we're keeping. There may be, I think, 1 or 2 in this area that are, I wouldn't say they're specimens,
Okay.
We're also adding an elm just to the front left of the building.
There will
Right.
be one here.
And it's not necessarily relevant here, but we're adding 2 more elms on Pleasant Street adjacent to Captain Lord Mansion.
Oh, okay. I thought there was a red maple going in there.
Oh, you
Okay.
know what? Is that what's going on in the corner? I think it's an elm. But,
Okay.
Either way, it'll be a beautiful shade tree.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay, Ed.
Hi, Tom. Steve, I know you were consulting with an arborist as part of the research here. What did he or she have to say relative to the disturbance of just putting in that parking lot? What effect, if any, was that going to have on the elm trees?
Well, after we made the decision to move the parking lot, we didn't consult with the arborist because his services was no longer needed because we just avoided that whole area altogether.
I know you have a good bit of expertise in the landscaping
Yeah.
area. What are your thoughts about just the damage that this might do to the trees? Just bringing in the heavy equipment, is there any way that can be mitigated?
Well, in this area here, it could have been damaging of the trees, and
No, I know it could have been. What is it you're doing now is what I'm asking. Could that potentially still be damaging to the root systems?
It probably will be to trees in this location, which are internal. We have some trees over in this corner that may be damaged to that. I think once we get in there and we start excavating, if we find a lot of root damage, we may have to take out, one of those trees for fear of it coming down. But I think the really significant trees in this area are saved. And we have some pretty,
And you won't be wheeling heavy equipment over those root systems.
no, all construction activity will come in this way. They'll come in this way. They'll essentially work this area and come back out
Thanks.
this way.
That's really for my own benefit rather than an ordinance issue. I
Yep.
appreciate that.
Yep.
There was a second question. There was an abutter who sent a note, I think it was just after the last meeting, who questioned the preservation of the 20-foot buffer that's required around motels, according to the landscape ordinance. And I wondered, and I looked on, I thought you had it marked as a 15.
He's got, the new charts have 20, have the 20 and the 40 on them. They also have the 15, which doesn't add as much, but the 20 and the 40 are both on the new lawns.
Yeah, so that's the 20.
So there's the 20. So though it looks like you're adding new structures, though, in that 20-foot area, you're making it, I might argue, less more non-conforming. Excuse me. But right now, those old cottages are in that buffer.
Correct.
Fine.
And pavements in that buffer too. We have pavement in quite a few of these areas,
Okay.
and so we're actually taking out pavements in these areas. We have more pavement here we're removing. We do have a patio over here, but this is in a location where there's already a patio.
Okay. All right.
So I would say we're improving it beyond what.
That's
where it's
that's
at.
what I was hoping you would say.
Yep.
That's good. Okay. Just to follow up on the lighting question, I know you said you put in a cut sheet. I haven't looked at it. Apologies. Is it shielded so that the light isn't? I know it's going to hit the trees and all that, but is the light directed downward?
Yes, it's a directed downward fixes. It's short of describing it. It's basically a can that the bulb is tucked up in and it shines down. So you
Okay.
don't see the bulb.
It's an opaque shade, right, Steve?
Yeah. Yep.
So again, it would be something in line with residential lighting.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a downward directed light. In other words, if you're staring at it, you're not going to see it unless you're looking up at it.
Right. And the neighbors aren't going to look over and say, boy, that place is like a tower
Christmas
of
tree.
light. It's
Right.
going to look like it's got some lighting as it does today.
Yeah, they may not even see it. Due to the evergreens that we have on the side, I don't even think they're going to see it.
But with the directional and all, it's not going to illuminate the sky is what I'm hearing.
Correct.
That's right, Ed.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And the last is just a comment. I know you said 9 o'clock. I think that's great. I know that other properties in the area, like the Nonantum and we've looked at other areas, 10 o'clock had been the cutoff. So it is a bit more residential, and so maybe that's appropriate, but I know that if one of your neighbors had a party, that it would likely go beyond 9 o'clock. So that was just my thought, is I thought that was,
Ed,
I thought they said
surprised me.
9:30.
I'm sorry? Scott?
I thought that they established that it was actually 9:30. What did you say, Steve?
9.
so
Okay.
Yeah.
Todd and Ed, our hope would be to turn off the communal fire pit by 9 o'clock and
Yeah.
have people disperse. I would like to request permission to have the individual unit fire pits, which are designed for 2 people, until 10 o'clock, if you find that that's appropriate.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
That's how I would feel, but
Yeah.
it's,
Well, just for your edification, the Colony Hotel cuts off events at 9 o'clock.
And I think that's what I just heard was going to happen here.
Yeah.
But the individuals are going to be able to sit on the patios past 9 o'clock, which I think is reasonable.
Yeah, it's just two people, you know.
Yeah.
And even we only got the one fire pit, the larger one, which really doesn't provide a lot of space for people to sit around it.
No, but if you're going to have a gathering spot, that's where it'll be. So if that's 9,
Yeah.
that's great. Like Rob said, it sort of gives you time to disperse.
Mhm.
After that, the fire pit will go out and people will go back to their individual cottages perhaps, or.
Yeah.
Oh, sounds good. Thank you. That's all I had.
Exactly.
Okay, Larry.
Oh, thanks, Tom. So I just had a couple of questions. One was, this looks like a much better layout. Yep, looks better. And I know that area where the parking lot is proposed is sort of low. So you're gonna have to add any drainage? I mean, is this gonna have to have any special drainage provisions for the parking lot in that location?
Well, we are adding drainage structures. So this is the grading plan.
Oh, yeah.
So we have a drainage structure here that's existing. We're going to replace that with a new one. And then we've added one in the middle here. In the old plan, we had a structure here, which was at the end of the parking lot. So overall, with this plan compared to the old one, there's less pavement on the overall property.
Okay.
The parking lot, compared to what was existing, this parking lot is less. It's slightly more than what the previous design was, but when you add up all the walkways and fire pits and all, this one's considerably less than the previous proposal.
Okay, great. So the drainage flows to an adjacent culvert or stream or something?
It flows in this, there's an existing pipe here that flows this direction. And then at some point over here, we don't really know where, it diverts and creates.
Okay,
And then that all heads down to drainage system that outlets down in Dock Square
okay,
and Ty.
okay. So is there any concern about the adequacy of the sizing of the drainage system?
No,
I mean, I guess you're saying that since the coverage is less, there's going to be no more water flowing than there was before. Is that the idea?
correct. Yeah. The
Okay.
stormwater report actually, this is an improvement over the previous stormwater report, but that one
Okay.
was even slightly less of an impact than what exists.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you. And then I did have some questions on the fire pit. So one of my questions involves, I'm sorry. So my understanding now is that all the fire pits are going to be propane fired, right? Is that correct?
That's
Correct.
right.
Okay, well, what is going to prevent some energetic vacationer from building a wood fire on top of your propane fire pit? I mean, you're going to have some sort of mechanism to prevent that from happening?
It's a good
I mean-
question, Mary. We've never encountered that at any of our properties.
Well, I mean, you know, it's if it's, well, I'm just saying, you know, some guy's on vacation, he's feeling good last night in town, he goes and buys some firewood, he's gonna roast some marshmallows or something, and you know, he just starts a little fire. I mean, how can you ensure that can't happen? I don't know what the answer is, but that thought did occur to me that, you know, it's going to be a very attractive feature, and there is a possibility of some anomalous use, I guess.
I
So
would,
if you could just take a look at that, maybe see how you, and of course, okay, the solution that comes to mind. Okay, I went to Pedro's, they got those old fire pits, but they got those old stainless steel frames around them, so you can't really, you know, so they're sort of isolated from anybody falling into them or using them for some other purpose. So I guess the configuration of the fire pit is something that, you know, could minimize the likelihood of it being misused. That's what I'm saying.
okay, we'll take that into consideration. The other thing is we're very direct in our communication with our guests about what our expectations are of them when they're with us. So it certainly will include language around the fact that they are gas fire pits not appropriate for wood burning. And just like any damage that's done to hotel rooms, there's a fine that goes along with disregarding that type of policy. But I'll take a look at Pedro's and see what they've got going over there.
And then when I was thinking about this, the other question that occurred to me was, so let's, well, because you have so many fire pits, and of course, I don't know what the capacity is or anything, but it seems like a lot of point sources of flames, right? And of course, this is low pressure, low volume type of situation. But, and again, this is something I'm just not my purview, but have you discussed this layout with your insurance underwriters to see if they have any concerns about the amount of flame points you have there? I mean, I know it's just a cost impact to you, but I mean, do your insurance underwriters have any concerns that might affect the layout?
We have discussed it with our insurance providers, and they haven't expressed concerns. The other thing is, we've been in conversations with the fire chief, and the way that each one of these cabins already has indoor fireplaces, so each cabin will have its own propane tank and local shutoff source, which will allow for quick shutoff in case of any kind of challenge or oddity that happens, as opposed to having a central buried propane tank where there's a lot of gas in the lines. We're really only talking about a few feet of gas line going to each fire pit, which does increase the safety of a shutoff. But no concerns from our insurance company.
Okay, good. I'm glad you checked it. And so then the other question is about the shutoff of the large communal fire pit at 9 o'clock and the individual fire pits at 10. Is this going to be on some sort of a timer so it shuts off automatically, or are you going to rely on the vacationers to voluntarily shut off the propane?
We get into the psychology of human beings here a little bit. The communal fire pit will be shut off by our staff, and the private fire pits, I'm not aware that there is a timing mechanism that can work like that. There may well be, and if there is, we'll certainly do it. But again, it'll be clearly stated on their registration card, and we do have staff on property to regulate that as well.
Okay, I'm pretty sure you could work out a remote control, well, locally, fixed remote control type of timer that would, actuate some sort of a solenoid valve that would, actuate a circuit that would move a, plug valve closed. Anyway, there's definitely definitely a solution to do that if you wanted to look into it.
I will.
Then I'm still okay. So I'm glad to see your concern for the trees. You're going to try to preserve the trees, and so I guess I'm still interested in hearing what an arborist may have to say about this configuration, because like I said, I did make a mistake one time of putting some, not even very much fill over some tree roots, and then the trees looked great, and then they all died after about 5 years. So I think it'd still be interesting to get the perspective of arborists as to just what is the expectation for the longevity of the trees from the parking and, well, from this configuration.
Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not even going to come close to challenging the life of any of the tagged trees on the property.
Correct.
Is that right? So
Yeah.
We are staying away from that. We're adding more shade trees across our properties. And I think that for us, simply, the current aesthetic with the tall pines is what we want to preserve. But for the purposes of this meeting, I wonder if that is germane to the conversation or approval of this. We certainly will. I just wouldn't want us to hold this up. It's important to us, but I don't know. And not a lawyer, I'm not a zoning guy, I'm not a planning guy, so I just don't know if it's relevant to this site plan or not, and whether you guys can approve it or not.
And if I can even add to that, I mean, I am a landscape architect. I have training in arboriculture, trees, site disturbances, I have training and all that. So I think once we get into the site during the construction, I can be out there and look at what the excavation's happening. And if we decide, that, hey, we're into some pretty serious roots here, we can evaluate, whether the tree is going to survive, and we can deal with it at that time. But as Rob says, everything that we're doing is very internal to the site. We have very few trees that we're going to be impacting. All the large ones are on the perimeter edges and well away from the disturbances we're going to be having. It's just
Okay,
like any
well-
other site development that would be going on in town.
Okay, well, okay, so you sound like you're pretty confident in this to minimize the impact. And so,
Yep.
I'm not really much of an expert in this. And so I'm deferring to your judgment there, Stephen.
Okay.
So that's it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. So I don't know if George or John has entered the meeting, but not hearing them. Does anyone on the board want to say something before I reopen the public hearing? Not hearing anything, I would like to reopen the public hearing. So do we have any raised hands at this point?
This is Katie Presley. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I am your friendly neighbor next door to as you face the main stand to your right. I want to compliment the planning of the relocation of the parking lot. Brilliant idea. And to respect to the trees that probably would have taken a hit. My three questions are this. One is, on the parking lot, I understand where it's going to be because I remember that was a grassy area that always flooded, and they had just assortment of picnic stuff out there. But can you consider a 6-foot hole instead of an 8-foot hole? Because I know that you're using vegetation, but could we lower it down from 8 feet to 6 feet? That's my first question.
Katie, consider that done. Right, Steve? We're good with that?
Yep.
Okay. And would it necessarily have to be on 24 hours?
Well, it
Because
definitely doesn't have to be done during the day.
we do have upstairs bedrooms that would see, even though they're covered and it's downlighting, we do have upstairs bedrooms that would look over that hedge. So that's why I was asking about the hours of night that it would be on. Would it be on 24? Would it be all night long?
I honestly don't think they're going to see much because your house sits, I believe, right over here.
Right.
And right here is that really large Norway spruce.
Right.
And then there's another one here.
Right.
And right here, we're putting an arborvitae hedge that's, going to get, that can be 20 feet tall eventually. And then we have another hedge here. So there's really not going to be any views into this area.
Okay. Well, then we enjoy the backyard. So you're saying that will be screened as well, because we do enjoy it in the evening as well.
Yeah, we have.
As well. What were you continuing? Was that all going to be arborvitae?
No, we got arborvitae up to here. So
Okay,
right, this is a large, you may remember, there's a very large tree right here. And then
Right.
the stream comes right
Look,
into here.
yes, yes.
Yep. So,
Now, that point back, that point back,
yeah, that is,
that's what, that would be considered something that we should talk about, because that's where can you hear me?
Yes.
That's where all the briar. That's
yeah,
the-
we have viburnums going in here. So those will get, 8 feet tall, unless Rob wants to keep them shorter than that. But those will be deciduous planting, but it's very, very beautiful flowers, good fall color.
You can't put, because there will be cottages back there with little fire pits. You can't extend the arborvitae hedge continuing down that way. Why? Could you do that?
The only thing we have is this one patio here, which is an existing one.
Right?
You won't see these other ones. There's another one here, but there's quite a lot of plantings here. And then you won't see these Earl. These are still quite a ways away.
We do see that last cottage that's there, that's the one on the far right, over.
This one here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But what harm would it be to extend that arborvitae back?
We can do that.
I think that would be wonderful. That
Okay.
would make a significant difference to our property if you had the continuity instead of the break. I do a little landscaping. I'm not a pro like you are, but I think the continuity of the line of arborvitae would be a wonderful screen and aesthetically looking hedge. And I give you full permission. You all can, whatever you have to do to make that happen as far as the briar patch, you're welcome to go at it. I know the briar patch is on our property, but I think it would be hard to put that arborvitae in with the existing, whatever that stuff is. I don't know what, it's not desirable. If y'all want to get rid of that stuff, you have my permission to do so.
Steve, is that a combination of arborvitae and rhododendron along there?
I think it would look better if we did a variety than just a solid hedge.
I think it'll look more natural that way.
Yeah. Yep. And we that's what we have down in this part is a combination of rhodies and arborvitaes. And I would agree.
Why don't we commit to continuing the screening and as it's currently designed back towards the backyard of Katie's property, and we'll see what happens with that briar patch.
You have my permission to get rid of it because it's a nightmare. Now, let me ask you another question. All right, so we talked about the light poles, and you said that they could go down to 6 feet, which would be very helpful. What are the front property where the proposed original parking lot was going to go? What use is that whole? Because as I'm looking at this plan, I'm seeing a lot of greenery around, you're warming up the existing cottages with a lot of greenery and privacy. And you see the parking lot. If I'm right about this, the only open green space is where that existing, the former parking lot was going to go. As you go, yeah, the whole sweep around on that right. What is that whole open area? What's the use going to be of all? Because as far as I can see, if I'm right, that's the only open green space you're going to have.
That's right. So there's really no proposed use. It's just going to be an open lawn. Arborvitaes are what, $300 each, Steve. So we're kind of running out of money on the landscaping budget. So we were just going to keep that open lawn, keep it low key, but no planned programming over there, Katie.
Would there ever be a proposed plan? I mean, my concern is, would you ever? I know in Palm Beach the green space is very valuable, as it is in Kennebunkport proper. Would there ever be any proposed use that you could see that would be a noise factor for us? I guess that's what I'm asking.
I don't think so. We don't have plans to do weddings at the property. It really is just for people to leisure at. So we don't have any plans for it.
And my thinking was, are you gonna put a lot of little groupings of Adirondack chairs in groups or things like that? That's what because it seems like a lot of green space there that would be tempting to create a use for.
I don't know. I know that Walter and Judy had some Adirondack chairs over there in addition behind the inn. It's
Right.
possible. I think
It's
that,
very, very passive area.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I can see that maybe during the day, some people will be playing lawn games over there or having a blanket out to sit on, but
Okay, all right. Well, it certainly does far exceed what the original plans were, which would have not been good. So that, I want to thank you all. I appreciate your lowering the poles down to 6 feet. I appreciate your landscaping that you will do along the side there. It will be beautiful. And when is this work going to be done when are you all going to start work once you get the approval? Do you have any idea?
well, hopefully tomorrow. We're running short on time. So there are a couple scenarios, Katie. One is we would jump right in. We just have to make sure our trades are still available. And if we can't get it done this season, we would push it off until the end of the fall season.
So it wouldn't be going on during the heat of the summer.
It absolutely will not. We intend to open by early June, and one way or another, the work will either be done or we will have decided to push it off.
All righty. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you've answered the questions that I had.
Okay, do we have any other hands raised at this point?
Okay, everyone can hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. I live at 33 Main Street, directly across the street. Planning board's heard from me a couple of times. And I just wanted to say that I'm very appreciative to Lark for the changes in the plans. I had major concerns about the trees and a lot of things. And so I really appreciate this. This makes me feel like we can work together as neighbors. I love the idea of these tall arborvitaes and the landscaping. It looks like it's going to be gorgeous and definitely an improvement to the neighborhood. So that's what I was really hoping for. So that's one thing I wanted to say was thank you. And thank you to the board for being so diligent about this. I need to know, how big is that fire pit that's going to be right across the street from me? How many people can sit around that?
So Michelle, the unit that sits inside the stones is 18 inches. So the fire pit mechanism that the gas comes out of is 18 inches in it's either diameter or circumference. It's been a while since geometry, but not a huge actual unit. And then if you think of that as the center of the circle and expand out from that 18 or 2 foot wide stone enclosure, you don't get very far out. Probably accommodates 6 to 8 people at most, I would think. Steve, what is that? Do you have the dimensions of that outer circle there?
Let me check. So I'm showing about 16 feet, which gives you about 6 feet around the circle, which, I mean, you're going to be hard pressed, I think, to get 8 chairs around there by the time people want to sit close to it.
Yeah, it'd be 2 feet per chair, roughly.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I appreciate that, and I'm glad that there are arborvitaes going up and some shield from the noise. I mean, I'm really just mostly worried about the noise on weekdays. Weekends are weekends, I get it. So, as long as the property's willing to work with the neighbors and give us, let us talk to the managers if we need to, if things are rowdy or whatever, we appreciate that. I kind of wish there wasn't one at every cabin too, but I get why you're doing it. So let's hope that it's going to be quiet and not a disturbance to the neighborhood. But again, I'm super appreciative of the changes that have been made. So thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. We appreciate that. And we appreciate that you guys helped us get here.
That's all I got.
Okay, got another raised hand?
You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks. I just want to just second what Michelle said about the improvements to the plan. I do agree that it's quite an improvement over the last set of plans. I do have a couple of questions. With regard to the north corner, the fence that currently runs along the rear of the property, which is a wooden stockade fence, is that owned by the inn currently?
Oh, geez, I have no idea. Steve, do you know?
Well, you can see it right here. So here's the fence. It's not on our property. Right here, it's dead on the property line. So
Right.
I don't
So,
know.
yeah, I would just encourage you guys to take a look at that fence because in many places it is falling down. It is the visual barrier, primary visual barrier between your property and those of us on Town Street. I'm looking at it right now. There are, missing staves, missing sections. It's in pretty bad shape. So I would encourage you to take a look at that, and if it is in fact your fence, to consider replacing it, or at least the sections that are in the worst shape, because I think the useful life of that fence is pretty limited at this point. And in the very corner where the two ash trees are, there's a small section of chain link fence, and that is basically the section that I peer through those two corner cabins right to the inn and see all the activity. So if that stockade fence could be extended, honestly, 8 feet or 10 feet, it would provide a great visual barrier for my property, if that is in fact your fence.
Nick, I'll take a look at that. I'm going to be back up in town early next week, so I'll take a look. We should have a fence company out there in a couple weeks to quote us, and we'll take a look at the whole thing.
Great. And again, thanks so much for making the changes you did make. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
That's all I have.
Okay. So
Thanks,
is that it for public input? Okay. Can you, Steve, bring down his thing so we can see people? Oh, there
How's
we
that?
are.
Stop the share.
Okay. So anyway, I don't know if anybody has any more comments or stuff. I think we pretty well know how I'll be assisting Scott on getting the finding of facts on this thing, but it's I think we're in pretty good shape. Does anybody I guess if folks are ready to approve this, I guess the first thing I have to do is close the public hearing. So I'm going to close the public hearing. So do I
I'm
hear
going
any
to second
motions?
Yes, I'll second that.
Well, no, it isn't a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the hearing.
No, what you want to do is move to approve the plan. Or not.
I would like to move to approve the plan.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Well, I'm in favor. Nina?
We haven't had discussion, but I'm in favor as long as we're written in there that they're going to be 6-foot light poles and the fire pit's going to be shut down at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock for the small ones.
Yeah.
I think those are restrictions.
Yeah, I did definitely, we'll make sure those things will be in the finding of facts.
Then I'm in favor.
Okay. Scott?
I'm in favor.
Ed?
In favor?
Larry?
In favor.
Okay, so the motion passes. We'll have a finding of facts for the next meeting. And I guess, and of course, Steve will be there for other reasons. But,
You think?
well, probably.
I think I'm out another couple weeks yet before I come. back on.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I guess Ivy isn't until May.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I guess we're done on Mainstay. And Scott, why don't you take a first cut at it, and I'll go
Absolutely.
through and we'll bounce it back and forth a few times and then send it out to the people to all review.
Sounds great. Got it 2/3 done anyway. Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you, guys.
Yep.
Smooth
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So that brings us to item 2, Bowsprit Kennebunkport LLC, Walsh Engineering authorized agent. So do we have somebody from Walsh Engineering? Perhaps Mr. Walsh? So, you're going to, okay, good. So, Bill,
Good
is
evening.
anybody else to bring in?
Yeah, Abby Goldenfarb and Michael Borowski are the owners. If they could be brought in, that would be fantastic. All right,
Okay, so why don't you proceed, Bill?
sure. Possible. Hopefully, I can share my screen. Yep, perfect. Um, Hopefully, you can see that.
Yep.
Good. Mr. Chairman, Bill Walsh from Walsh Engineering, and as I said, there's Abby Goldenfarb and Michael Borowski, who are doing business as Bowsprit Kennebunkport LLC. And we're here for a sketch plan for a 4-lot subdivision that they're proposing, and it's right at the intersection of Wilds District Road, which is, if I can get a pointer here. As just to orient everybody, Wilds District Road is down here on the bottom. Main Street or Route 9 is here. This is kind of that sharper curve right when you get to Ward Road, Wilds District Road, and Route 9. The water tank sits right up behind the property, right up here to the left on the plan. The parcel itself is what's outlined in green. It's a 3.4 acre parcel that fronts, as I said, on Wilds District and Main Street. And it has property that is owned by the Water District on the left here, which is to the west. There is this little triangle piece on the right, which is actually owned by the Kennebunkport Conservation Trust, that little triangle. And then the roads on the north and the south sides. There's presently one residential structure right here that sits on the property. And the rest of the property is primarily undeveloped with the exception of this driveway that traverses kind of through the property. The property generally grades in this direction. It grades down towards Wilds District. So the higher point of the property is up here and it all grades down in this direction. And there are various places where ledge is at the surface. It's kind of a bony site, we'd call it. And in between that, there are areas of vegetation. There's the area kind of around the house here and up in this space is more sort of grass and meadow, but the majority of this part of the site is wooded. There are some stone walls that exist that the previous owner apparently constructed that kind of run throughout the property or around the edges of it. The property is located in the Cape Porpoise West Zone, which allows for 20,000 square foot lots. We've gone through and done our net residential density calculations, which show up on the plan over here. So overall, we have 148,000 square foot property. And when you go through the math and dial that down, we get down to 103 square feet of net lot area. Dividing by 20,000 square foot per lot, you get to 5.1 lots that are permissible, if you will, on this property by zoning. And what in several iterations that we've gone through with Michael and Abby, we've got to a place where we're going to do 4 on the proposed conditions. We are proposing 4 lots. So we have the existing house lot here, we're going to call that, which will be at where a house here, either this house will be retained or reconstructed at the same location. We would have that one. Lot 2 is this lot, which fronts on Wilds District. Lot 3, again, fronts both on Wilds District and Main Street or Route 9. And then Lot 4, which is fronting on Route 9. We have one open space parcel, which touches all of the lots. So it gets access for everyone to be able to get to the open space lot and utilize it. For the utilities, let's skip to one other plan. There obviously there is no sort of infrastructure. This subdivision's a little different. There's not a lot of infrastructure that's being constructed as you would typically have, just due to the frontage that we have. We don't need new roads. We're just constructing driveways into the lots. We do have one shared driveway here, so lot 1 and lot 2 would share this access onto Wilds District Road. Part of that is due to site distance challenges that we have. So being able to create one spot and divide that into those 2 lots seems to make the most sense. For utilities, then the existing house would use its sewer and water services that exist there. Lot 2 would have a new sanitary connection in from Wilds District and a water connection that would come off of Route 9 off of an easement that would go through this lot. Lot 3 was very similar. Sewer goes off in one direction and water connects back off of Route 9. And lot 4 is the same, water coming in off of Route 9, and then sewer goes downhill down to the sewer down in Wilds District Road. The electrical services, I think we still have to work that through with CMP down here, but I'm sure we're going to be underground. There is electrical service out here on Wilds District Road, and I'm sure we'll be underground into these lots to get our electrical service. We have already obtained a MDOT entrance permit for this driveway right here. We studied this pretty hard, and we actually had Maine DOT come down and look at this, but they concluded the same as we did. This was the place for and provides for adequate site distance for lot 4. Down on Wilds District, we need to work with the town on that. There are some. We're gonna work with them to do these entrance permits and just work through the potential site distance issues that we have here. We can engineer around them. We just have to remove some ledge, I think, along these edges and clear these site distances to make sure that they work. I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to turn it quickly over to Abby, and she can tell you a little bit about herself and her vision, if you will, of the property.
Hi. Thank you, Bill, and thank you to the members of the planning board. Really quickly, I'm Abby Goldenfarb. My husband sitting next to me is Michael Borowski. I grew up in Kennebunkport, went to Kennebunk High School, and I've always dreamed of being able to own a property here. My family is still in town, so I'm lucky for that. Our goal here, we spent part of the summer renting across the street and noticed this abandoned property. It's in our mind truly beautiful, and what our hope is to rebuild the house that is there and have it be our home. That's something we've always wanted to do. We've met with a number of neighbors that live next to the property, Bill and Emmanuel, Bill Rowland and Emmanuel there, talked to them, and that was really influential in citing where the proposed open space is. We've also walked around and met a number of neighbors who were home over the past couple months. Our goal with this breaking off pieces is really to allow us to rebuild the property. It's far too much land for one family, even though our little kids love running around in it. And our hope was really to have a thoughtful design. So thank you for taking the time to walk through this with us.
So I think with that, we're happy to take questions, comments, suggestions from the board.
Okay, one thing, when we get the final, get the next plan, the preliminary plan, we have to be sure that we actually have a copy of the purchase and sales agreement in it, rather than just referencing that there is a P&S.
Oh,
Yeah,
we own the property now.
Well, then we need the deed.
Yeah, we need the deed with you guys on it then. That would
Okay.
be even better.
Yeah, I apologize. I thought that was in there. So we'll get that to you for sure.
No, you've got the previous deed in there. There's nothing to reference their authority to put
Okay.
in the sketch plan.
Okay, so, other board people questions?
I have a few questions on
Okay.
that. One, I'm looking at your water systems coming in there, and you've got lot 2 coming along the drive of lot 4 there. And I'm wondering why you don't take it a little further out, even though it means digging a little more, because if that water main has to be dug up at one time, you're going to be destroying somebody else's driveway, or at least part of it. The other thing I'm wondering about is why, I know you said it's MDOT approved that access, but you already had one further back. And I know that intersection is a very uncomfortable one where Ward Road comes into Wilds District and Route 9. And it seems to me it makes more sense to put it back to where the other drive came in there.
The existing drive doesn't have any sight distances. Looking left, it's about 25 feet, so it's very dangerous.
Okay.
And there's nothing there, so that's why we moved it down. When it's down here, it actually, you can see back in this direction, and you can see back up to the top of the hill. I think we can certainly adjust the water main as well there, Nina. That's not a big deal. We can do it. Our driveway's kind of fixed as to that site location or site distance issue. So, but we can certainly move that water main around a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of future problems where,
Yeah,
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. Other than that, I don't have any questions right now.
Okay. Scott, anything?
Well, just one question. Right where the 2 water lines are coming up on Main Street for that lot 3, if that's also my understanding, if you follow one of those all the way up to lot 4, the house, isn't that also the sewer line that's going to go from there all the way to the name of that road? Yes.
Oh, Wilds District. Yep.
Wilds District.
Yep.
How long would that be?
I don't know what that distance is. It's probably about 150 feet, 200 feet maybe down the hill.
Oh, is that all? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ed, anything?
Yeah, couple of questions. Bill, do you envision an HOA agreement being part of this by the time there's a final? And would they be deeded the open space?
I think that's probably, we'll discuss it with Abby and Michael, but I think that's probably what has to happen there, some sort of HOA just to manage that open space.
It looks like that open space, if it's maintained, is going to be a nice resource for all 4 properties. Do I understand that correctly?
Absolutely. So it's kind of, we stretched it over to this one so that these folks have access through that strip there. But yeah, it is, everybody borders that property, and we were intentional about that.
Okay. And then one question, you mentioned MDOT approval not yet on the 2 cuts on Wild District Road. I was a little confused because I thought only one of the cuts is new and the other one is existing. Do you need, because there's 2 houses on it now, is there some additional process that needs to be followed?
So it's kind of interesting in here, Ed, on Route 9, it's a state process. And on Wilds District, it's a town process. So
my only question is on the town side.
Yep.
One of those driveways is already there, correct?
Yep.
Do you need to revisit that because there's 2 properties now?
Yeah, I think we do. And I think just to make this, I'm going to call it safe, I think we're going to have to look at that and make sure we've got that in the right location, that we do a proper site distance.
And will that involve MDOT or just the town?
Just the town.
Okay.
Just the town.
I understand. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Larry?
Well, this is interesting. I guess the only thing that comes to mind really is so the perimeter of this development is the green line, right?
Yeah, it's this one here, Larry.
Okie doke. So then there's a little triangle to the northeast of the property. Is there going to be any significant impact of this development on that portion, on that little parcel?
Not really. I mean, we're staying within our, within our property boundaries, if you will.
That's the Conservation Trust, right?
Correct.
Oh, Conservation Trust. Gotcha. Okay. And then I think that a large white object is sort of to the left there. That's a water tower.
This is the water tower.
That's the water tower. Is there?
Exactly what that is.
Is there? And I don't know. Is there any particular concern about this development in the close proximity to that water tower? I don't know what that might be. It just seems like a kind of a commercial industrial facility right there by a subdivision.
Yeah. No, there's not. We have had discussions with the water district already about our connections and such, and we didn't ask that question, but we can certainly circle back with them. I don't see any real issue there with that. If we're hammering ledge out here, we're going to have to notify them. I think that might be the biggest issue, maybe, to make sure they're aware of it, and things don't get things are done well, I guess, for removing ledge.
Yeah. Great. All right. Thank you.
Just to
okay, Bill,
can
any others? Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I just add on to Larry's there? Have you had any discussion, or need there be any discussion, if you have to do some blasting because of it being ledge near the surface, is the water tower of concern?
I will have that discussion with the water district. I think it's a good point.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I mean, obviously with any blasting, we've got to make sure we're not rattling things. And there are, when you do blasting, there are notices that have to be given with anybody within 500 feet. And there's protocol that are required, as you.
I understand that, and likely this has already come up. It's just as Larry pushed on it, I thought, boy, that's a big structure, and
yep,
it's on legs and all of that. Okay,
Yep.
Good stuff. Thanks.
Okay, Bill, just quick comment. When there will be a waiver of some sort needed for the shared driveway. We've had it before. It's not a big deal. You just have to get it in there.
Okay. I thought we could have 2 off of, no? Off of 1?
Now, Okay, my other question would be whether this would be appropriate to have a site walk.
Certainly, that's up to the board. If you all would like to have a site walk, just let me know and we'll see about getting that scheduled.
Okay, well, I'm interested. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would be.
Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Good.
Mhm.
Well, we'll get with Lisa and set something up with you, Bill, I guess.
Yeah, is there anything you'd like to see on your site walks? Anything?
Bill, are those black lines vernal pools in there? Do you have some round lines and
No, those are just contour lines right up here.
contour lines?
Yeah.
Are there vernal pools there?
No, there's not. There's a lot of rock out there. There's not much. No, there's not.
Okay.
All right. So I think you've got our inputs, Bill. Is there anything we have to do, Werner, other than say,
Nope.
go forth and prosper?
Yeah, no, I mean, at this, at this point, again, the sketch plan is just to, for the applicant to get some initial feedback from the planning board, to see if there's any, any initial thoughts that the board has. So, yeah, no, at this particular point here, we can, move forward with, getting a site walk scheduled, and then certainly the applicant can move forward with putting together the preliminary application and submitting that.
Super.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, that's it for that agenda item. Our last agenda item is other business.
Thank you all.
Michael Spinard and Brian Glazer, they need, I guess Werner can discuss this a little bit, that we need to extend the time on their application.
Sure. So we had received a permit application to move forward with, with the Glazer project, and I think we may have a representative here, but essentially what's happened is that if you don't pull a permit within that 6-month time frame, it does require an extension from the planning board. And as we all know, the past year, for that matter, has been a bit of a hiatus, for projects and people. So hence, you have a request for an extension. My understanding, it's quite literally just to get over the hump to get the application, for us to sign off on the building application. So I think otherwise, the property owners are ready to go.
So what do you need from the board?
So you do have, Mike Bedell, I see he's in the audience. I don't know if the board wants to hear from him or not, but I'm just looking, for the board to, to grant the extension, as was requested, in their letter. And, as long as it's noted in, as long as it's something that's noted in, a motion and in the minutes, I'm good with that.
Remind me how long an extension we're asking for?
The ordinance anticipates you can go another 6 months. So, I would just stick with what's, with what's in the ordinance. But,
Thank you. So could I move that we agree to grant this 6-month extension as requested?
I'll second it. So I'm in favor. Nina?
I'm in favor.
In favor.
Ed?
In favor.
Scott? You just said in favor. And Larry?
In favor.
Okay. We have, the motion is carried to extend the application to August 29th. Or is that 19th? 19th. So, okay, Werner? We
great.
good?
That's good. That's all I need. So thank
All
you.
right, so I'll take one more motion and then I'm gonna go light a charcoal fire and cook some steak, so.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Me too.
I'll second.
Okay. All right, in favor? Aye.
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 Okay.
Take care,
Thank you,
Scott.
guys.
Thank you
Thank
so
you all.
much.
Yeah.
All right, see you
All
in a
right.
couple weeks.
Definitely time to
Bye-bye.
go.